Have you ever looked at your blood test and wondered, why is my creatinine creeping up, even though I feel fine? What if I told you the problem might not be meat, sugar, or medication, but something far more ordinary, something you may be eating every single morning without a second thought? I'm Dr. Richard Hale, and I need you to hear this clearly. Some of the most common foods people trust, especially bread, can quietly overload your kidneys with hidden phosphorus, excess sodium, and minerals your body can no longer manage. And the most dangerous part is this: you won't feel it happening. No pain, no warning, just a slow rise in creatinine, a silent drop in GFR, and damage that often isn't discovered until it's already advanced. I've seen patients do everything right, yet their kidney numbers kept getting worse. When we finally traced it back, the culprit wasn't a rare disease or a missed medication. It was a simple daily habit, one slice at a time, placing constant pressure on already stressed kidneys. And once that pressure builds, the risk of chronic kidney disease, dialysis, or permanent loss of function rises faster than most people realize. But here's where this becomes critical and hopeful. Not all bread is harmful. In fact, a few specific types can do the opposite. When chosen correctly and eaten the right way, they can reduce kidney strain, stabilize creatinine, and support healthier filtration instead of sabotaging it. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 4 specific breads that are not only safer, but may actively help protect your kidneys, along with exactly how to eat them, when to eat them, and what mistakes silently reverse their benefits. By the end, you'll understand why one small change at the grocery store could dramatically alter the future of your kidney health. Because when it comes to your kidneys, the danger is rarely loud. It's quiet, it's routine, and it starts with choices you make every day, often without realizing the cost. Now that you understand how something as ordinary as bread can quietly damage your kidneys, let's start with the first option that actually works with your body instead of against it: sprouted whole grain bread. This isn't a trendy health food buzzword, and it's not just whole wheat with better marketing. Sprouted bread is made when whole grains are allowed to germinate before baking, and that one small step changes how your kidneys experience every bite. I often explain it like this: regular bread hits your kidneys like a sudden workload spike, while sprouted bread spreads that workload out, giving your kidneys time to breathe. I remember a patient in his early 60s who told me, "Doc, I already gave up salt and red meat. What else can I possibly change?" His creatinine wasn't dangerously high, but it kept creeping upward every few months. When we looked closely, his breakfast was the same everyday toast. Not junk food, not fast food, just toast. Once he switched to sprouted whole grain bread and controlled the portion, his lab results stopped climbing. Not overnight, not magically, but steadily. And that's exactly how kidney protection works. Here's the science behind why this matters. A typical slice of sprouted whole grain bread, about 40 grams, provides roughly 130 calories, 5 grams of protein, 22 grams of complex carbohydrates, and around 2 grams of fiber. That fiber is key. It helps reduce systemic inflammation, supports healthier gut bacteria, and lowers the load of waste products your kidneys must filter, directly affecting creatinine and the urea-creatinine ratio. Unlike refined bread, the protein here is easier to digest, meaning less nitrogen waste for your kidneys to process. That's especially important if muscle loss is already a concern, which is common in people with declining kidney function. Sprouted bread also delivers B vitamins B1, B3, and B6 in modest but meaningful amounts. These nutrients help regulate energy metabolism and reduce oxidative stress, one of the silent drivers of kidney damage. Magnesium, about 45 milligrams per slice, relaxes blood vessels and lowers pressure inside the glomeruli, allowing filtration to happen more smoothly instead of under strain. Potassium and phosphorus are present, yes, but in naturally bound forms that are absorbed more slowly and are far less aggressive than the phosphate additives hidden in processed breads. But here's where many people unknowingly undo the benefits. They eat too much of it, or they pile on salty toppings, or they assume healthy means unlimited. 1 to 2 slices per day is the sweet spot. More than that, especially 4 or 5 slices, and you can quietly push potassium and phosphorus too high, creating the very stress you were trying to avoid. Timing matters too. Morning is ideal when your kidneys are best equipped to handle filtration. Eating this late at night when kidney clearance naturally slows is a common mistake I see again and again. If you're wondering how to eat it safely, keep it simple. Lightly toasted paired with avocado, unsweetened nut butter, or egg whites. Avoid processed meats and salty spreads. And chew slowly because digestion speed affects how hard your kidneys have to work downstream. But here's the important transition to understand. While sprouted whole grain bread is powerful, it's not the right choice for everyone. Some kidneys don't need more nutrients, they need less burden. And that's where the next bread surprises almost everyone, because it works by doing something very different. If sprouted whole grain bread works by giving your kidneys more usable nutrition, then the next option works in a completely different way. It protects your kidneys by asking them to do less. This is where light rye bread without seeds or nuts quietly becomes one of the smartest choices for people with rising creatinine. It doesn't look impressive, it doesn't scream health food, and that's exactly why so many people overlook it. I often describe this bread as a low-noise option for stressed kidneys. After sprouted bread, some people feel better, but their labs still fluctuate. When that happens, it's not because the bread is bad, it's because their kidneys aren't ready for extra complexity yet. I once worked with a woman in her late 50s whose creatinine numbers bounced up and down despite switching to what she thought were healthier breads. When we simplified her choice to light rye no seeds, no whole kernels, her labs stopped swinging. Not dramatic, just steady. And for kidneys, steady is powerful. Here's why this works. A typical slice of light rye bread, about 35 grams, contains roughly 100 calories, 3 grams of protein, about 20 grams of carbohydrates, and around 1.5 grams of fiber. That balance matters. The protein load is modest, which means less nitrogen waste for the kidneys to filter. The fiber is enough to support gut health and toxin binding, but not so high that it overwhelms weakened filtration. This is especially important for people with early to moderate CKD who feel worse when fiber intake spikes too quickly. Light rye bread also delivers B vitamins B1, B3, and B6 in amounts that quietly reduce oxidative stress, one of the hidden accelerators of kidney decline. Magnesium, roughly 35 milligrams per slice, helps relax blood vessels and lowers pressure inside the filtering units of the kidneys. Iron supports oxygen delivery and helps prevent anemia, which often worsens kidney fatigue without obvious symptoms. Zinc supports immune balance, which matters more than most people realize once kidney function begins to slip. And here's the key detail most people miss. Potassium in light rye sits around 75 milligrams per slice, and phosphorus around 60 milligrams, both lower than many healthy whole grain breads. That means your kidneys aren't forced to scramble to clear minerals they can't efficiently handle anymore. It's not about eliminating nutrients, it's about keeping them within a range your kidneys can manage calmly instead of constantly sounding the alarm. But this bread can still backfire if eaten the wrong way. I see it all the time. Someone chooses light rye, then stacks it with bacon-cured meats or salted spreads. Suddenly, the sodium load wipes out all the benefits. Portion control matters here more than people expect. 1 to 2 slices per day is ideal. 4 or more slices may quietly push potassium or phosphorus too high, leading to bloating, fluid retention, or subtle lab changes that show up weeks later. Timing matters too. Morning or early afternoon works best when kidney filtration is naturally stronger. If you're looking for a safe way to eat it, think simple. Lightly toasted, mashed avocado, egg whites, a thin layer of unsweetened hummus. Chew slowly because digestion speed affects how quickly waste reaches your kidneys. And ask yourself this honestly, have you ever chosen a healthy bread, then unknowingly paired it with foods that canceled out its benefits? If so, leave a comment. I read everyone. But here's the transition you need to hear. Even though light rye reduces kidney workload, it still contains protein and minerals. And for some people, especially those with more advanced kidney stress, that's still too much. Which brings us to the next option, one that most people misunderstand completely. Because sometimes protecting your kidneys means choosing a bread that does almost nothing at all. After hearing about light rye bread, many people assume we've already reached the safest possible option. Less fiber, fewer minerals, easier on the kidneys. What else could you possibly need? But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people never hear for some kidneys. Even gentle foods are still asking for too much. And that's where the next option comes in, one that almost everyone misunderstands: low protein, low salt white bread with no phosphate additives. When I mention white bread, I can almost hear the objections already. Isn't white bread bad? Didn't my doctor tell me to avoid it? And in many cases, that advice makes sense for the wrong kind of white bread. The problem was never the color. The real danger has always been what's hidden inside excess protein, sodium, and phosphate additives that silently push creatinine higher over time. Remove those, and the entire story changes. I once worked with a patient in his early 70s whose kidney numbers were slowly drifting in the wrong direction despite strict dietary control. He avoided whole grains because they made him feel bloated, but he was also afraid of white bread. When we introduced a low-protein, low-salt white bread designed specifically without phosphate additives, something interesting happened. His digestion improved first, then his labs stabilized. Not dramatically, but consistently. And for kidneys under stress, consistency is everything. Let's look at why this works. A typical slice, about 35 grams, contains roughly 90 calories, only 2 grams of protein, around 18 grams of carbohydrates, and about 1 gram of soluble fiber. That extremely low protein content means far less nitrogen waste entering the bloodstream, less for the kidneys to filter, less pressure on already struggling nephrons. The soluble fiber supports gentle digestion without triggering mineral spikes, helping maintain steadier creatinine clearance and a more stable GFR. What makes this bread truly unique, though, is what it doesn't contain. No phosphate additives. Those additives are one of the most overlooked drivers of kidney damage because they're absorbed almost completely and force the kidneys into overdrive. By eliminating them, this bread dramatically lowers the filtration burden. Sodium is typically kept under 50 milligrams per slice, which helps maintain fluid balance and prevents subtle increases in glomerular pressure that many people never feel, but their labs reveal months later. There are also a few quiet nutritional advantages most people don't expect. Selenium, around 8 micrograms per slice, helps protect kidney cells from oxidative stress. Manganese supports enzyme activity and carbohydrate metabolism, which matters because unstable blood sugar indirectly worsens kidney strain. Trace copper contributes to antioxidant defense, and choline, often overlooked, supports the liver-kidney connection involved in processing creatine and metabolic waste. None of these nutrients act loudly. They work in the background exactly where kidney protection needs to happen. But this bread requires discipline. Because it's easy to eat, people tend to eat too much of it. Multiple slices back to back or pairing it with high potassium foods can quietly undo its benefits. 1 to 2 slices per day is the safe range. More than 3 or 4 slices may subtly disrupt mineral balance or lead to mild fluid retention. Timing matters too. Mid-morning or early afternoon is ideal when kidney filtration is more efficient. Late-night consumption, when clearance naturally slows, is a mistake I see far too often. If you're using this bread, keep the pairing soft and simple. Unsweetened almond butter, light ricotta, mashed avocado in small amounts. Avoid processed meats completely. Eat slowly because rapid digestion sends waste products to the kidneys faster than they can comfortably manage. And ask yourself, have you ever assumed that healthy meant more protein, more grains, more nutrients when your kidneys actually needed less? If that sounds familiar, leave a comment. I truly read them all. But here's the transition that matters most. Even when protein and sodium are minimized, some breads still quietly stress the kidneys if their structure isn't right. And the final option, one most people think they already understand, can either protect your kidneys long-term or push them closer to dialysis, depending on how it's chosen. And that's where we need to slow down and pay very close attention. After everything you've heard so far, this final option may sound familiar. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous if misunderstood. Low-sodium whole wheat bread is often recommended in passing, but rarely explained correctly. Most people either eat the wrong version, eat too much of it, or eat it at the worst possible time. And when that happens, something meant to protect the kidneys quietly becomes another source of long-term strain. I want to be very clear here. Whole wheat bread itself is not the problem. The problem is sodium portion size and timing. I've seen patients proudly switch to whole wheat convinced they're making the right move, only to watch their creatinine continue creeping upward. When we look closer, the bread wasn't low sodium at all, or it was eaten late at night, or it was stacked slice after slice, day after day, without realizing how quickly minerals accumulate when kidney clearance slows. When chosen correctly, low-sodium whole wheat bread offers something none of the previous options fully provide long-term structural support for kidney health. A typical slice around 40 grams delivers about 110 calories, 4 grams of protein, 21 grams of complex carbohydrates, and roughly 3 grams of dietary fiber. That fiber slows digestion, binds waste products in the gut, and reduces how much urea and metabolic byproducts ever reach the kidneys in the first place. This is not about forcing the kidneys to work harder, it's about giving them less to clean up. There's also a deeper layer most people never hear about. Whole wheat naturally contains alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 around 50 milligrams per slice. This compound quietly reduces inflammation inside kidney tissue, one of the main drivers of CKD progression. Folate, about 35 micrograms per slice, supports red blood cell production and helps prevent the subtle anemia that worsens kidney fatigue over time. And phytosterols help protect blood vessels, which directly affects how well blood flows through the kidney's filtering units. Potassium and phosphorus are present, but in controlled amounts when sodium is low. Potassium sits around 140 milligrams per slice, and phosphorus around 75 milligrams levels that many kidneys can tolerate if portions are respected. Lignans and ferulic acid act as antioxidants, quietly reducing oxidative damage that slowly worsens creatinine and albumin to creatinine ratios. None of this works fast, and that's the point. This bread supports kidneys the way slow, steady pressure supports healing, not by shock, but by consistency. But here's where everything can go wrong. Eating this bread late at night when kidney filtration naturally slows is one of the biggest mistakes I see. Combining it with processed meats, salty spreads, or high-protein toppings completely reverses its benefits. And eating more than 2 slices per day, especially 3 or 4, can subtly push potassium and phosphorus beyond what weakened kidneys can comfortably handle. The damage doesn't announce itself. It shows up weeks later on lab work, leaving people confused about what they did wrong. The safest way to use low-sodium whole wheat bread is early in the day. Lightly toasted, paired with cucumber, avocado in modest amounts or egg whites, chewed slowly, stored properly to avoid hidden sodium from preservatives or mold. And most importantly, treated as a tool, not a free pass. I often tell patients this whole wheat bread is like a supportive friend. It helps when respected, but overwhelms you when leaned on too heavily. And that brings us to the most important realization of all. Knowing which bread to choose is powerful, but it's not enough by itself. Because what truly determines kidney outcomes isn't just the food, it's the pattern, the timing, and the habits that quietly repeat every day. And that's exactly what we need to talk about next. Before we close, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not powerless even if your creatinine is rising, even if your GFR isn't where you want it to be. Kidney health doesn't collapse overnight, and it doesn't recover overnight either. It's shaped by small, repeatable choices, the kind you make every morning, every grocery trip, every meal you don't think twice about. And today you've just learned that even something as simple as bread can either quietly harm your kidneys or gently support them depending on how you choose and how you use it. My advice to you is this: don't chase perfection, chase consistency. Choose 1 or 2 kidney-friendly breads that truly fit your situation. Respect portion size. Pay attention to timing. Pair foods thoughtfully. And most importantly, listen to your lab results because they tell a story long before symptoms ever appear. If you've made mistakes in the past, that doesn't mean damage is inevitable. It means you now have better information, and better information changes outcomes. If this video helped you understand your kidneys a little more clearly, please save it. You may want to come back to it the next time you're standing in the bread aisle, or when you review your lab results and wonder what to adjust next. And if you care about protecting your kidneys, long-term subscribe to this channel. I share practical evidence-based medical insights designed to help you lower creatinine, protect GFR, and make sense of kidney health without fear or confusion. And finally, here's the message I want you to carry forward. Kidney health is not just about avoiding dialysis, it's about preserving independence, energy, and quality of life. With the right knowledge and the right habits, many people stabilize their numbers in slow progression far more than they ever thought possible. Your kidneys are resilient when you give them the right support. Start with what you learned today. Stay consistent and remember you're not alone on this journey.